Yeah, let's bring Les McCurdy back out here. His lovable self. Les McCurdy, the sexiest man in Sarasota.
Tom Rhodes!
Yay.
You can have the good chair, Tom.
Let me sit on the. Okay, all right.
I guess.
Thanks for making such a great club, Les.
Thank you. Thank you. It is a great
pillar of the community. Yay.
Yes.
I want him to put that zero back on the check. Just want him to forget about the curtain that I knocked down.
Yeah, you tore the gauze down. The temporary gauze. And I was just thinking as you were doing that last bit, and I know that bit, but it's the first time I thought that if you were able to do that, you had gone beyond the medium-sized dick.
Matt, you just discovered why I could never do it. I never figured that out. It's a mathematician.
Is there anyone here by applause that has accomplished it?
Really?
That girl right there has the biggest.
How big of a fan is your boyfriend? It was a strap-on.
Oh,
wow.
wow.
That's so great. Wow, see?
And you...
Pee Wee Herman jacks off in a theater in Sarasota. It's trouble, and, you got people doing all kinds of stuff that's far more newsworthy than what he did.
And this wasn't where I was going to head.
That's newsworthy. That should have led to local news. A local woman filleted herself with a strap-on tonight.
Now
She's giving classes at the local Y on Wednesday nights now.
I was going to start. I was going to start somewhere else, but I'm not going to now because you were the shit in Amsterdam for a while. Well, a little, kind of, sort of, right? You had the late night talk show.
I had a late night talk show on Dutch television, but in Holland they had 4 channels, at the time, and it was on like the Fox kind of channel of Holland. There's interesting. There's like 2 religious channels in Holland. And did you see the thing? Rick Santorum got in trouble today for saying that Holland euthanized elders. They're trying to scare seniors in America. And it was like really chump move. My wife's from Holland, and she's getting all pissed off. They're like very liberal, wonderful people, and they're very experimental. And somebody had the idea to do a late night talk show, like a la David Letterman, with an American. And I was living in Holland. I had moved there for a Dutch girl, not the one that I married. And the relationship didn't work out, and I was just about to move back to the United States. And these people saw me in a comedy club, and they offered me the job. And so for 2 years, I got to be a late-night talk show host in Amsterdam. And it was my all-time dream in life. I grew up watching Johnny Carson as one of my all-time heroes. And to be the guy in the $2,000 suit coming out from behind the big curtain and standing on the X and doing a 5-minute monologue, and then you sit down and banter with the musical host. I got to do it, and it was the country of the Netherlands that gave me this opportunity. I mean, in the United States, I don't know. I don't know what you have to do to get a late night talk show. But
I think you have
weird.
to have more than a medium-sized dick.
It came true in a different country, in the Netherlands. So whatever.
When you didn't do it tonight, but I think it kind of fits in with the story you tell people when they go there, because everybody thinks you go to Amsterdam and it's just wide open. You're gonna drugs. You can buy drugs legally, and you can do all these different things, and prostitution. But the live sex shows, and you warn people about don't do that. Do not go into these live sex.
Well, and first of all, Amsterdam is not that wild. The Dutch are very conservative, Calvinistic Christian people. I mean, there's a lot of immigrant people there. They've had issues with that. But the Dutch believe in hard work. And the prostitutes and the drugs are really for tourists. They're business people. And in Holland, you're considered immature if you smoke pot over 20 years old. They say that tourists and teenagers smoke marijuana. And then, it would be kind of frowned upon if a Dutch person was seen, poking a prostitute. I mean, it happens, but it's just not, they're not wild people. These things happen there. So they've got these sex shows. And when I lived there, a lot of American church groups go on these walking tours of the red light district. And I don't know if they're fascinated by the hedonism of it or whatever, but it's very common that in the red light district you'll see an American church group, you know, whatever, they're on the way to Israel, you know. They got a 12-hour layover in Amsterdam. You know, they're going on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. They got a 12-hour layover. I don't know how it works out, but just be forewarned. If you ever go there, you know, and you get a prostitute, you might think you're on the other side of the world and you're going to get away with something freaky. You come out of one of those windows and there's the Bradenton First Baptist Church. There's no phone in there.
And when you go into these live sex shows, it's like you'll never be the same because you can't compete with these people.
I only went, I mean, because I moved there. No, I moved there. I had a beautiful love story with a girl. And then I had another beautiful love story with another girl. And I went when they had the late night talk show. We went there and we covered it. Whatever. I don't have to excuse myself.
No, you don't.
But this girl comes out dressed like the Grim Reaper, Death. She had a sickle and everything. And she put on a circular cloth on the stage at one of these live sex shows and had a devil pentagram star on it. And my mom, you know, religious woman and whatever, it was a little freaky, man. And the woman flipped upside down, and she stripped naked. She flips upside down, and she put a candle in the closest thing she had to a candle holder. Lit the candle on fire, and then she did this breakdancing, and her legs were going all over the place, and the candle never moved, and the flame never went out. And I'm sorry, that is beyond my Christian sensibilities. I'm going back to that club one day. I'm going to get a squirt gun full of holy water. I'm going to jump out from behind the seats and pop, pop. We're going to get some Jesus into that girl, even if it's one drop at a time, in her satanic little butthole, okay? Little Jesus for you. Pop, pop. These are great questions, Les.
Be careful. So, you are one of only 2 or 3 guys I've ever known that wanted to be a comedian from the very beginning, from the time you were 12 years old, because your Uncle Bob went up and you saw him, and that started it. And then by the time you were a junior in high school, you were sneaking into the comedy clubs in Orlando and doing sets. And by the time you were out of high school, you were working professionally. So you never had a job.
Never. My hands are soft as a baby's bottom. I bagged groceries when I was 16. That's the only other job
that was
I had.
It. And just kind of from there, you went to New York.
Went to New York first. Failed miserably.
Yeah, which we
wasn't ready as a comedian yet.
That's right. We go
20.
too soon.
Yeah.
Go too soon. Came back, got your chops, a couple years, and then to San Francisco.
Moved to San Francisco, and that's where I got great as a comedian. A lot of I thought a really higher intelligence of humor came out of San Francisco.
Oh, it's
Bob Newhart and just Jonathan Winters, all these guys that I idolized came out of San Francisco. So I moved there, and that's where I got good as a comedian.
And then
Comedy Central discovered me.
And this was when Comedy Central first started. Tom was the very first comedian to ever be signed by Comedy Central, and yes, and they signed you to a 1-year development deal. And I think the average Joe Blow out there, and that happens to a lot, does not know what that is, a development deal.
They give you a big hunk of money, and they want to, you can't do anything with any other network. And then a development deal, so you're developing something with them in that year. Mine, a lot of people don't get something. Mine actually culminated in something. I did a hour special called Viva Vietnam. My father was a Vietnam veteran. My father flew helicopters in Vietnam, and he was shot down, and everybody died except for him and one other guy, and he dragged this guy across the field, and he got like 5 medals for it. And and my dad is the reason I'm a comedian. My dad had all these comedy albums, and my dad really had a dark, gallows sense of humor while he was in Vietnam and afterwards, and he's where I get my twisted, fucked upness humor from. So it was 95.
Yes.
Vietnam opened up for the first time that Americans could travel there. And I had this development deal with Comedy Central, and I said, why not let me go to Vietnam? And they thought it was a great idea. They thought it was, you know, highly press-worthy. And I did a special called Viva Vietnam, where it was a travel thing. And I did a lot of funny things. I went to Da Nang and did the world's most dangerous place to set up a slip and slide on China Beach. And then I did the Jane Fonda workout tape in Hanoi with these old women that were doing Tai Chi in a park, and they loved it. And there were some really beautiful moments in it. And then we did the screening of it at this place in Washington, D.C., and they had all these Vietnam veteran administrative people that work for the wall and all these veterans, you know, like administrative things, like the VA and stuff. And then all of these Vietnamese political, like people that worked for the Vietnam embassy were there. And I had this really great Charlie Chaplin moment. I was in the back of the room, and I'm watching like these people that were formerly fighting, and they're all laughing at, you know, the silly shit that I had filmed in Vietnam, and that was one of the coolest things ever.
And you know, it's amazing, you know, when you, well,
I actually have it. I have it. I put it on YouTube. You want to see it? It's great. It's called Viva Vietnam. Just whatever. Tom Rhodes.
And I think what you might see at that point is that most people that are in a war don't want to be in a war, and enjoy when they're not, and can come back together. And to come back together in laughter is amazing.
Yeah, my dad's, you know, he's deceased now, but his big part of his identity was being a Vietnam veteran. He went to these reunions every year, and for the helicopter reunion people, and you know, he just thought that thing was the funniest thing in the world, and he was constantly making jokes about Vietnam.
And then you got the sitcom on NBC. You got the big deal. You got the shot. Your show, Mr. Rhodes, hip English teacher in a prep school, I believe. You had long hair back then. I believe your hair was about right here. You used to flip it a lot.
I still miss. So I was on this very stage, and I was skinny and sexy and young, and I had this fucking long hair, and it was great, and like, you know,
flip that.
It was really expressive. You can't. I mean, what can you do with a bald spot? Can't do that between jokes. You know,
I can still watch
so cool
Tom
having
on
this
stage.
hair, man. This flipping.
I still watch Tom on stage when he does these manic things, and I know to you it's just manic. To me, he's flipping hair that's not there anymore. He's just flipping it. So you get a sitcom, and it lasts one season, which happens many. So many people don't realize that what happens mostly is that you get a sitcom, you film it, and it never even makes it to television. Tons of those. Think about that as a tease. Oh, I've made it. Call all your family. No, we're not even going to put it on the air, which happened to Jeff Foxworthy's first sitcom. Yours gets on, runs a year, and you were pretty smart about it. You didn't go out and buy the $6 million house or anything like that, and then it goes off. And then at that point, how did your life go after that? Because you capitalized on it well. You didn't let it depress you.
I wouldn't go that far.
You did let it depress you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little depressing. I mean, it was a great experience. You know, I lived in the Hollywood Hills, and I had the sitcom, and it was, you know, drive onto the lot at Universal. Stephen Tobolowsky played Ned Ryerson in Groundhog's Day. He's the principal on Glee, one of the greatest American character actors ever. I'm still good friends with the guy. He was the principal. Ron Glass from Barney Miller. Remember the Nubian gentleman from Barney Miller? Blood on the badge. And he's a great friend of mine still. And so, I mean, that was cool. But I was really, I didn't get any I thought it was a missed opportunity. They made it like a children's show, which it was never supposed to be after like the 3rd episode. And they wouldn't give me jokes. And I had this long hair, so everybody's making all these long hair jokes. Hey, cream rinse. Hey, Fabio. And I'm like, hey, write a fucking joke for me, bitch. And anyway, so I had all this money, and I always swore if I ever had any money, I would move to New York and live there with style, because I had lived there once like a dog. So I got a rock star apartment in the Wall Street area of New York City, and it was on the 18th floor. And I was like 3 blocks from the World Trade Center, and I had 3 marble balconies. It was pimp. And then I was a comedian. Then I started playing Europe, and I was just focusing on being a comedian in New York City.
And that took you to the world.
Yeah.
And you and there's not a lot of comedians that do this. You literally play all over the world. And I mean, I'm looking at the list of countries here and cities that you regularly play. And let's see, we've got Paris, Dublin, Berlin, Hong Kong, Beijing, Bangkok, Jakarta. I know that Singapore. I don't even know what this city is. Kuala Lumpur.
Kuala Lumpur.
Kuala Lumpur.
Oh my God! It's the Sarasota of Asia.
No. Kuala Lumpur. You go.
Kuala Lumpur has those the twin towers now by default. They're the largest twin towers. It's the Petronas Towers.
Right.
And it's a Muslim country, and there's a phenomenal. It was formerly an English colony, so they all speak English, but it's a Muslim country. But everybody should go there. They're so progressive and cool and wonderful. They're not like the sweaty, covered up Muslim people we think about in the desert. I mean, no, I mean, and not all Muslim people are like that. There's like so many progressive Muslim people in Europe and Asia, and they're not radicals. They're really, and there's a great comedy scene in Kuala Lumpur. They're like such good people. And I know your question is going there. What I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to make a comedy travel show. The way Anthony Bourdain goes around the world, and it's all about food. I'm trying to do that with comedy, and I've got so many great. And like Les said, I go to Ireland once a year, and England, and all these different places. And so I've got all these great friends, and so I filmed my pilot in Kuala Lumpur. And you've got Muslim comedians with Indian Hindus and Chinese, Christian, Buddhist comedians, and they all make fun of each other's religion and races. And I think I really was blown away that our perception of like what Muslim people are and what their countries are, I thought they were a lot freer than we are in this regard, that they could make fun of everybody else and laugh about it, and the audiences are,
So freedom of speech.
They're not touchy.
Is a lot more open than we would think it is.
Yes, in Malaysia.
And
Malaysia is not a destination you would think of first of going to Asia, but I think it's one of the nicest places I've ever seen anywhere.
Are there any of the countries that you play that when you get on stage, you know that there's parts of your show that you're not allowed to do?
I played in Dubai and Abu Dhabi years ago, and I was told I couldn't do because I was playing in London a lot, and the Comedy Store in London, and that's how I got all the gigs. And I was living in New York at the time, and I was systematically trying to get in with London, and the Comedy Store is the best club there. And it's to be on stage at the Comedy Store in London and kill is like one of the greatest feelings in the world. And so that's how, from getting in with theirs, what led to all this other work. But they were booking a room in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and they were managing me at the time. They knew my act very well. And they told me I couldn't do the waterside park. And there's a huge waterside park in Dubai. So it's like, oh, that joke would have been, and I actually went to it. It was a really great. I really love waterside parks. I'm from Florida, and I commend the Dubai.
Was that the only?
Dubaians.
Was that the only city you were censored in?
Yeah, more or less.
Huh. And did you make fun of the name Abu Dhabi?
I said my uncle is Big Bad Bobby from Abu Dhabi.
If you want to bring the house lights up just a little bit. My last question, and then we'll open this up to the audience if anybody has a question there, is that you're recently married. You've talked about that. This is your first marriage, your only marriage. You've been married for a year, but y'all been together for two or three?
Oh, coming up on 4.
4.
Because we got married on our 3-year anniversary, which was April.
Okay.
So, months.
And how has that changed your goals and vision of your career?
She makes me focus and work harder, we work, she likes, all right, come on, let's get some jokes, and I've been writing for the Huffington Post. They asked me to be a travel writer. So I'm not writing anything political. I'm just writing about my travels. And then I'm also trying to write a book right now. I've been offered a book proposal, and so I'm trying to write all these short stories about my life traveling the world as a comedian. So when I want to like just fucking watch television, she's like, you know, hey, let's work on some stories.
Wow, every married man in this room knows where you're coming from right now. Okay.
So I never had that before, and you know, my whole life I just been footloose and fancy free, freewheeling. You know, staying in hotel rooms, having casual sex with strangers, women, and just staying up late and doing whatever I wanted. So, yeah, I'm a lot happier now that everything's changed.
She's here. She's a good sport.
That's my wife right there in the corner. You can't see her because she's dark-skinned.
It's beautiful.
God, it is...
Any questions? Any questions from the audience at all before we end up? Is there any? And if there's somebody from back, I can't really see if you're raising a hand. Anything at all? Catching you?
What do you do in Canada?
What's that?
Have you done some gigs in Canada?
Done all over Canada, sir. I've done the Montreal Comedy Festival 3 times. I'm working on a date in Toronto at the Comedy Bar.
Are you from Canada?
Where are you from in Canada?
Toronto? Northern Ontario, like no city, just a area.
Well, I think Toronto would be his...
What? There's no reason to talk that way to us, sir.
In April, I will be in Calgary. The second week of April, the first week of April, I'll be in Calgary, and the second week, I will be in Vancouver. I quite love Canada.
I think Tom Sobel's putting a one-nighter in Sudbury, where he's from. Yeah.
No, I do Canada a lot. I love Canada.
Any other questions? Anything else?
Sir.
I don't necessarily have a question. I have a comment.
Okay.
You know, and I didn't find that was objectionable. But I thought the funniest joke you said was about your brother with the stealing the lawnmower. I just pictured him going down the highway. You know?
I really love that you said that because, like, that was the one thing that wasn't a joke. That was like, and I just like. I riffed it because I'm here and I'm like, you know, I'm in Florida, so I'm thinking about my life and my family, and I don't know what made me prompted me to think about my oldest brother, but he had a lot of problems with the law, and that was something I thought he did was particularly a jackass move. So,
and so many times
that was great that you say that. I just threw it out.
And so many times when something comes to you, it comes out in a way that's funny, that's almost hard to recreate with the same rhythm and timing when that moment happens. So you might have got it. Anything else? Ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot for coming out.
You guys are a wonderful audience. Thank you so much for coming out today.
Hope to see you again soon.